Hello everyone, I'm Megan Sullivan and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you a series of tips and tricks I wish I had known before starting Atelier Yumia. You see, this game is fun. In fact, it's really fun, and I think a lot of you are going to enjoy playing it. But the onboarding process, aka the tutorial, kinda sucks. The opening hours of the game throw a lot of fantasy jargon and text walls at you, making it hard to understand how all the super nuanced gameplay mechanics work together, especially when it comes to the resonance synthesis system. So if you're feeling super overwhelmed in the opening hours of the game, don't worry, I'm going to break it all down for you step by step. I'm also going to give you some pointers on how to do things that are easy but not intuitive, like how to rearrange furniture in your base and how to access back row fighters in combat. And if any of these tips and tricks help you, please like this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. It really encourages me to keep bringing you this type of content. Thank you. So let's start with the resonance synthesis system, aka the alchemy mechanic, because I'm guessing that's why most of you are here. And look, I know it's presented in a really convoluted way, but once it clicks, it's actually not too hard to understand, which is why I'm going to walk you through the process step by step. Now, as many of you know, everything you do in an Atelier game is in service of crafting. You find a recipe, you gather the right ingredients for said recipe, and then use a cauldron or some sort of magical device to make weapons and armor, healing items, and even your own home decor. Before you can make anything in Atelier Yumia, however, you first need to unlock recipes at your alchemy station. To do that, you need to gather mana particles. These particles, made up of people's memories, will not only unlock alchemy recipes, but will allow you to upgrade your creations, making them more powerful. How do you go about collecting these particles? Well, monsters will sometimes drop them, and larger particles can be converted into smaller particles, but the best way to go about collecting mana particles is by following wavy blue threads that lead you to a fabulous fountain of them. There's also a red wavy thread that leads you to a plethora of particles, but you need to fight a monster or two before you can collect them. Now, I know it may be tempting to run past these mana fountains while exploring because they're everywhere and sometimes they take you in the opposite direction of where you're going, but my first real tip to you is always stop to collect these particles, because you're not only going to need a lot of them to unlock a lot of recipes, you're going to need a lot of different types of particles. So take those few extra seconds to grab them, it will save you a headache later on. Okay, now that you have your mana particles, you're going to need ingredients, and happily these are everywhere in the game. You can pluck them from the ground, shoot them down with Yumia's gun staff. This is really fun to do, by the way. Collect them from treasure chests, fish for them, or pick up monster drops. Once you have the right ingredients, now you can hit up the nearest alchemy station and begin synthesizing. And here's how the whole thing works. Instead of throwing ingredients into a cauldron, like in, say, Atelier Iris 2, hey, remember that old school game? That was so good. You'll craft items by synthesizing together different types of what are called mana core. There are three main types of mana core: quality cores, trait cores, and effect cores, which, as you may have guessed, help improve the overall quality of your creation, determines how many accessory slots it has, we'll talk about trait crystals in a second, and the types of passive traits and stat boosts your item will come with. Before you can synthesize, though, you need to first add core ingredients to each mana core and then fortify it with additional ingredients. How do you do that? Well, each mana core comes with a resonance level and a mana level, which you can see in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. The idea is to raise a core's resonance level and mana level by inserting the correct ingredients into a number of slots found in each core. Every time you raise your mana and resonance levels, and you can do this multiple times during the synthesis process, your creation, whether that's a magical robe or an elemental attack item, will get an extra perk either in terms of an effect or a stat boost. So for example, raising a mana core's resonance level might increase an item's attack power, while raising the mana level might give the item an overall boost in quality. On top of that, many ingredients, which are categorized by their elemental type, their quality, and their resonance level, come with their own individual synthesis effects, which you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And if you add those specific ingredients to your mana core, your final product might just get one of those extra perks. But wait, back up. What even is resonance? What the heck do I mean by mana? And how do you raise these levels in the first place? Well, that comes down to using the right ingredients. You'll know which ingredients are the right ones because two things will happen. First, the correct ingredient will have a glowy sphere around it. That is what is called a resonance. And the better the ingredient, or the more appropriate the ingredient is to the synthesis process, or the more you use of the same ingredient, the larger that resonance glow will be. That's a good thing, because if that glow overlaps with the resonance glow of another ingredient, that means the ingredients vibe with each other. They're a good combination. And ingredients with overlapping resonance is what helps raise your resonance level. But the other reason you want a nice big resonance glow is often that glow will encompass little floaty stars called mana. The more mana you capture within your resonance glow, the more your mana level will rise, and the more perks your final product will get during the synthesis process. By the way, if you use particles to raise a recipe's level, you'll unlock another stratum with more ingredient slots to keep the process going, giving you the chance to make your gear even more powerful. This system is pretty cool, and it's meant to allow players to tweak the heck out of each and every item in their inventory. But it's a lot to take in, and it can be time-consuming. So don't be ashamed to take advantage of the auto-synthesis feature. Just tell the game if you want to focus on an item's quality, effects, or the number of slots you want for your trait crystals. At that point, the game will do all the heavy lifting for you. And if you like an item but want to make it a little stronger, don't forget that you can rebuild that item by adding more ingredients in it if there are empty slots available. Just choose the synthesis item rebuilding option. Now, I mentioned slots for trait crystals, but what are trait crystals? These are crystals you blend together to create an item that either further boosts a character's stats or give them a cool edge in battle. The only way to get these crystals is to collect colorful gems while fighting and foraging out in the field, and then use a special blending station, that of course you build, to turn these gems into proper trait crystals, which can then be slotted into your armor and gear to make them extra awesome. But wait, there are even more ways to improve both your alchemy skills and your inventory, although this requires a number of steps outside the main synthesis process. So let's go over what those steps are. One of the most important things you need to do to access better alchemy skills is to complete a regional checklist given to Yumia by her boss, Erhard. Every time you complete a percentage of this checklist, and remember, every region has its own list, you'll unlock blueprints for new alchemy stations or unlock new synthesis skills for Yumia. And you cannot access these features unless you do this. So for example, you cannot access a greenhouse, which lets you duplicate valuable ingredients, or a forge, which helps you improve weapons and armor, without first doing a number of specific and sometimes random tasks. The same goes for skills like fishing. You can't use the simple synthesis system to make a fishing lure until you finish your chores. Luckily, one of those tasks I spoke of is rather fun, and it has to do with base building. So let's talk about base building. Now, for those who don't know, base building is a mechanic where the player can plunk down a fully operational base on a designated patch of land, and then do everything from synthesize items there to change outfits to just, sit and chill by the fireplace. To build a base, you can either snap it together piece by piece like Lego blocks, or just choose a prefab home and fill it with furniture. These really are functional bases, by the way. If you build a bed, you can sleep in it. If you place a chair in a room, a party member will sit on it and you can talk to them. However, if you're like me, you might spend hours under the impression that once you place an item, you can't move it or get rid of it. The good news is you absolutely can. The bad news is the game doesn't do a very good job of explaining how. Well, here's how. And by the way, these instructions are specific to the PlayStation 5 version of the game, but there should be an equivalent to other versions of the game as well. So if you want to pick up and move an item, open up the building option in the menu wheel. The game will automatically prompt you to duplicate whatever comes up first, but instead, deselect that item by pressing the L1 and R1 shoulder buttons at the same time. Then move the cursor over the item you want to move and press X. And voila! Yumia will have the ability to pick it up and place the item wherever you want. But what if you accidentally made the wrong item and want to get rid of it? In that case, you just move the cursor over the item and quickly push down on the touchpad. That will cause the item to disappear. By the way, don't hold the touchpad down too long or everything will disappear at once, which is useful if you want to completely start your base over, but a disaster if you don't. At any rate, once you build a base and fill it with stuff, the game should acknowledge that and you'll have completed part of your regional checklist. Okay, now I'm going to switch gears and talk about combat for a second. In combat, you have access to 6 characters in your party, 3 of which are in the front row and 3 of which are in the back row. At first, it seems like you can only directly control the 3 party members fighting in the front row, but you can play as one of your back row fighters if you want, and you should because some of those checklist chores involve spamming character-specific attacks. Now to switch between front row combatants, just press the R2 shoulder button and then press the face button an ally is assigned to. If you want to access a back row fighter, however, press R2, then X, then the face button an ally is assigned to. There is text in the combat user interface that explains this, but it's really small and really easy to miss. So I thought I would just let you guys know it exists because for the longest time, I missed that feature entirely. Another thing that's easy to miss because of tiny UI text is the ability to mark locations on the world map. This isn't a huge deal because a lot of key locations will automatically be marked on your map as you discover them, but if you have a favorite fishing spot or a treasure house you want to go back to, especially if you don't have a key, you might want to make a note of it. To do so, open the map, place the cursor over where you currently are, and then hold down X. This will bring up an icon wheel that helps you remember what it is that you're marking. Oh, speaking of doing things like fishing, when you do so, there's no splashing sound or rumble that lets you know when Yumia has caught something, so be on the lookout for a bright glow over her head. That's the cue something is hooked on the line. What else? Oh, don't neglect those little puzzle shrines you see in the world. These puzzle shrines usually involve solving a simple mini-game or interacting with the environment around you, and they only take a minute or 2 to deal with. Your reward for doing so will be prisms, which can be used to unlock useful abilities, like one that allows Yumia to gain better jumping skills, and another that increases her mana core capacity so that she can jump from high places without getting hurt. Being able to jump higher and further really helps speed up exploration. I know, ziplines are cool and all, but sometimes it's way easier to just jump. Also, the other reason you want to solve as many puzzle shrines as you can is because you're going to need those prisms to unlock more advanced skills in Yumia's skill tree, which is divided up into synthesis skills, exploration skills, and combat. So, hit up those shrines whenever you can. And hey, you're also going to need skill points for your skill tree, and one quick way to earn them is to do random side quests for NPCs, but here's an important tip. Do not give away high-quality items in random side quests. That's a waste, and I promise you, you won't be punished for giving E-ranked herbs to some rando NPC unless someone is asking for a specific high-quality item. And finally, don't forget to occasionally check the map for character quests. These tend to pop up randomly in super random places, so if you want to get to know Yumia's friends better, check the map every so often for any character icons that might pop up. Okay, I think that's enough to give you guys a head start in the game. Remember, it's all about exploration and having fun. Again, if any of these tips and tricks helped you, spread the word. Go to Reddit, go to Reset Era, go to Mars, go to Kinda Funny. Tell everyone about this guide. It really helps me out. Thanks so much for watching, guys. See you later.